Hello there YouTubers, subscribers and friends. It's me, Althistory Luxembourg. Unfortunately on a Sunday, but even so, we will continue our scenario Saturday or Sunday video. At the end, if you take both first letters, you will always have an SS for scenario Saturday. And if it's once for Sunday, I really ask for your forgiveness. Anyway, guys, today we are having the topic of what if Gaius Julius Caesar was never born. And I mean, the name Caesar is very obviously self-explanatory. So, I mean, everyone knows Caesar, right? So at the end I won't go into detail who he was and all of that, because we just know he's Caesar, you know. So as the topic is revolving a question which I actually don't really like to ask in an Althistory video about what if person X was never born, it's gonna be a little bit different than the other videos where countries or societies or a collective made changes, because in here we have the change or the changes that were brought by an individual. I agree, many changes during that period were also done by other people, but if we compare, let's say, Caesar to a random monarch in Europe at the Middle Ages, he was for sure much more influential than that kind of monarch. And I think he's actually one of the few great personalities that for real on their own they made a lot of changes. So that's why I think it's one of the few exceptions that we can take and make an own art history video about. Now, without Caesar, we will have a void actually within the Roman Empire, because Caesar actually fit in very well this void of a great general who then went on to conquer Gallia and even parts of what we know today as Great Britain. And as we know, Caesar did this during his self-imposed exile. He had a lot of troubles during his life. He had, of course, also a lot of victories, yes, but as you can grow and become famous, you can also fall really fast. And at the end, I mean, he was assassinated, so you can see that this guy was potentially very dangerous for a huge elite. Now, as I said, without Caesar, probably the conquest of Gallia will happen in a very different way. I think we can even ask ourselves if the conquest of Gallia will happen at all, because at the end we won't have really someone who is then trying, to show himself off and then say like, to brag about the abilities that they have. And also if there are other people who felt like, I don't know, in a very bad way and had a very bad reputation, they would not take the same decision as Caesar, because every person at the end is different. And now, without having Caesar conquering all of Gallia, the conquest of Gallia might happen differently, like step by step, or just partially. Probably the Celtic tribes, they could unite and become a strong force to reckon with. Maybe they will just always stay disunited, and probably the Roman Empire will just not care about them. Or maybe, as I said, they could unite, become a threat, and even maybe overthrow the Roman Empire. But again, this is a lot of speculation. And now, without having a person like Caesar going on to conquer all of Gallia, probably people like Crassus, for instance, they also would never have the motivation to wage a war against Parthia. Now, as we know, Parthia is the different name for, as we know today, Persia. At that time they were called Parthia because the tribes, I think, of the Parthians, they took the power. And at first, both empires were actually neutral towards each other. So they even had in a contract written that they both took the Euphrates as a border of interest. And it was only Crassus who then at the end just thought, okay, since Caesar achieved such a big reputation by conquering all of Gallia, I want to do the same as him or even bigger. And Parthia was at that point a very important empire, and I think without Caesar going on to conquer Gallia, Parthia and Rome, they will still be very neutral towards each other. They probably for sure won't become, allies. And in the longer run, probably they will have some border conflicts, but I don't think they will become rivals as they were in our timeline. Now, without having Gallia being conquered, and also without having this very chaotic war against Parthia, we have more resources that are actually available to conquer Egypt. Egypt at that time was a very important empire and a very important power. Egypt was logistically and also strategically a very important place because there were a lot of farms, not really farms as we know today, but more like crops, and where a lot of food was growing. It was like the bread belt of the of what we know today as the Roman Empire, of course. And I think for some reasons it would be interesting for the Roman Empire to just conquer them. And also we have to take into consideration that the Roman Empire at this point was actually bordering them from two sides. So they came down from Syria and what we know today also as Israel to Egypt. And then from the other side, parts of Libya, the historical Libya, were parts of Rome as well as of Egypt. So I think it was just a matter of time until Egypt would be conquered. And then we have also the political point of view where before Caesar we had a guy called Sulla who already weakened the republican tradition within Rome. And I think after Sulla it would be very possible that we have other guys coming up who would not proclaim themselves as, let's say, monarchs or emperors or kings or whatever, but we could have like some collective who would then choose a specific person, like for 10 years, let's say, as dictator, because originally this position was created during a time of crisis. And I think, as far as I know, the dictator would be there in place for 6 months, and it could always be renewed until the crisis was over. And since Rome actually was in a lot of trouble, had social wars, had wars with outside countries, had struggles within and outside, it could make a lot of sense to place a person there for 10 years and then bring some stability. Of course, this person can also make bad decisions, but let's say if it's like, I don't know, someone from within the military and the military will actually control it somehow, maybe they will bring some stability for real. Of course, they will still steal as It is everywhere the case, some money and some stuff and abuse power, but that's a different topic. So at the end, there won't be a Roman Empire, but probably we would just talk about Rome, or the Roman Republic, or the Roman dictatorship. Rome would not expand into Gallia, if at all. Stability would actually prevail at the end, so Rome would be smaller but still being able to hold for a longer time, I think. And also without the problems that they would have with Parthia and then later on Persia and so on. They would focus their resources and also the military advisors that they have, the general soldiers, into other places. So I could actually see them going more, let's say, down south, like let's say after Egypt they will maybe go more far, like almost maybe to Ethiopia, maybe not so much, but they could go over there for the trade, because there was a lot of trade to be made. And then also maybe in the very long run, perhaps going into Armenia and other places of the Caucasus. And when Parthia would have some kinds of crisis, maybe then they would just go on and attack them. But that's also a very, very that's a huge speculation to be made. So as I said, I think there won't be a Roman Empire. Rome will be smaller as we know today. It will be a bit more stable. There won't be a monarchy, and also perhaps the system of the dictatorship as they had it could change a little bit but still prevail. And also the notion of dictator at the end would not exist in our timeline, obviously. So obviously we would refer to these people as tyrants instead of dictators. How would this change the European history? I think it would change a lot of European history, because a longer Rome would mean that actually all of what we know today of as Europe would be butterflied away. Would Christianity still expand? That's very difficult to say. But again, it could go down the road of having a Christian Rome, or maybe even not, or maybe at the end Parthia could become Christian if they still exist. Anyway, guys, I think that's all for today. Again, I'm really sorry that I made this video just today on Sunday, but I had my good reasons for it. And I won't let you down, and I promise next time I will hold on to my schedule. And I hope I can see you next time on Althistory Luxembourg. I wish you a very nice day, and I hope you enjoy my next videos. Bye! Don't forget to subscribe, give a comment, give a like, and watch all the other videos that I have on my channel. Have a great day!